Welcome, my friends. What if I told you that the man who gave light to the world once lived in the dark? What if I told you the man who created the electric bulb was told he was too stupid to learn? That he was kicked out of school, rejected by teachers, ignored by experts, and still he never stopped? This is not a motivational speech. This is not a movie. This is real. Today, you will hear the true story of a boy not born a genius, not born rich, not born powerful, but born with something greater than all of that: unstoppable belief. This is the story of Thomas Edison, the man who failed over 1,000 times and still lit up the world. Why should you listen? Because this story isn't just about invention. It's about your life, your dreams, and your power to keep going when everyone else stops. And yes, this story will improve your English, because you won't just learn the language, you'll feel it. So listen carefully, because this story might not just teach you English, it might switch on the light inside you. Let's begin.
The boy they called stupid. Thomas Alva Edison was born on a cold winter day in 1847 in a small town called Milan, Ohio, USA. He was the seventh and last child in a poor family. His father was a carpenter and a political activist, and his mother was a former school teacher. They didn't have money. They didn't have power. But they gave him something far more important: love and belief. From a young age, little Thomas was different. He didn't play like the other children. He didn't sit quietly in class. He was always asking questions, always breaking things to see how they worked. Why does the sun shine? Why do stars twinkle? What's inside a clock? To others, he seemed strange. To his teachers, he was a problem. The day he was sent home. At age 7, Thomas started formal school, but just after 12 weeks, his teacher told his mother, "Your son is slow. He doesn't focus. He might even be mentally weak. We can't teach him." They labeled him. They rejected him. They gave up on him. But his mother, Nancy Edison, refused to listen. She looked the teacher in the eyes and said, "You may have given up on my son, but I never will." That very day, she pulled him out of school and began to teach him herself. The power of one person's belief. She didn't just give him books, she gave him freedom. She didn't give him fear, she gave him confidence. She didn't teach him what to think, she taught him how to think. Under her mother's care, Thomas read books about science, history, math, and machines. He built his own laboratory in the basement. He started experimenting with batteries, wires, and even small explosives. While other children played with toys, Thomas played with ideas. He once said, "My mother was the making of me. She believed in me, and I never forgot it."
The curious boy becomes a young inventor. After his mother began teaching him at home, young Thomas Edison's world changed. She gave him space to think.
freedom to explore, and most importantly, faith in himself. She didn't just teach him facts, she taught him how to love learning. Every day, Thomas read books about science, electricity, chemistry, and machines. His bedroom became a small lab. He mixed chemicals, played with wires, and even caused a few small explosions. He wasn't afraid to fail. He was excited to learn. At age 12, Thomas took a job selling newspapers and candy on a train that traveled between towns. Most boys would have just worked and gone home, but not Thomas. Inside one of the empty train cars, he set up a mini laboratory. He called it his moving science lab. There, he continued experimenting, even while traveling. He also started printing his own small newspaper using a second-hand printing press. He called it the Grand Trunk Herald. It was the first newspaper ever printed on a moving train. Can you imagine? A 12-year-old boy selling papers in one hand and building science experiments with the other. That's not just intelligence, that's passion. One day, disaster struck. While experimenting with chemicals in the train car, a fire broke out. The conductor got angry and threw all of Thomas's materials off the train. He also slapped him so hard it affected Edison's hearing for the rest of his life. From that day, Edison was partially deaf. But did he cry? Did he give up? No. He said, "My deafness helped me concentrate. I learned to listen with my mind." Most people would see deafness as a weakness. Edison turned it into a strength.
The man who failed 1,000 times. Thomas Edison was now a grown man. But even though he had grown older, he still had the heart of that curious boy, always asking questions, always looking for new answers. Edison moved to a small lab in Menlo Park, New Jersey, and hired a team of young workers and scientists. They called it the Invention Factory. He told his team, "We will make something every week. Let's create the future, not wait for it." But Edison had one dream bigger than all the others. He wanted to create a safe, long-lasting electric light bulb, a bulb that could replace gas lamps and bring light into every home, school, and factory. The experiment begins. Creating the light bulb wasn't easy. In fact, it was a nightmare. He and his team tested over 6,000 materials from all over the world, different metals, plants, and even animal hair, to find something that could glow but not burn too quickly. Every single time they tested a new material, the result was the same: failure. One day, a young reporter asked him, "Mr. Edison, how does it feel to fail 1,000 times?" Edison smiled and replied, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps." What a mindset! Most people would give up after 10 tries. Some would stop after 50. Edison? He kept going after 100, 200, 1,000. Because he knew something most people forget. Every failure is not the end. It's data. It teaches you what doesn't work so you can find what does. Finally, light. After years of testing, in October 1879, Edison and his team found the answer. A carbonized cotton thread inside a vacuum bulb. It lasted over 40 hours. For the first time in history, a reliable electric light bulb existed. People gathered outside his lab just to see it glowing through the window.
They had never seen anything like it. The world would never be the same.
The legacy of light and inner power. After inventing the electric light bulb, Thomas Edison became a world-famous name. People from across the globe wanted to see this wizard of Menlo Park, the man who turned darkness into light. But Edison didn't stop. He never wanted to stop. For him, invention was not about fame, not about money. It was about solving problems and serving people. There's a way to do it better, he used to say. Find it. He believed that everything could be improved, everything could evolve. And with this mindset, he went on to invent the phonograph, the first machine to record and play sound. Improvements to telephones and telegraphs. The motion picture camera, which helped create the movie industry. Electric power systems that brought light to entire cities. By the end of his life, Thomas Edison held 1,093 patents. That means he legally created more inventions than almost anyone in history. But his real invention was not a machine. It was a way of thinking, a way of living. The Edison mindset. Thomas Edison showed the world that greatness is not a gift, it is a decision. A decision to rise every time you fall. A decision to try again when the world says no. A decision to see light even when everything around you is dark. His life teaches us, you don't have to be perfect, you have to be persistent. You don't need permission, you need belief. You don't need to be lucky, you need to start. Even in his final years, half-death, weak, and tired, Edison continued to work. He once said, "Restlessness is discontent, and discontent is the first necessity of progress." In simple words, never be satisfied with where you are. Keep growing, keep building. The end, but also the beginning. This is not just the story of Thomas Edison. This is the story of anyone who ever had a dream. It's the story of you if you choose to keep going. So, what will you invent? What light will you bring into the world? If this story touched your heart, if it lit a spark inside you, then don't let that spark die. Like this video if it inspired you. Subscribe to the channel if you believe in learning through real stories. And in the comments below, tell us, what dream are you chasing? Remember, your story matters. Your light matters. This is TaleVerse, where every tale comes to life.